talk on top of each other as usual.
We're back.
We're back.
Exciting podcast about book. And yep. So this one is Steppenwolf by Herman Hesse. And what do you give this one out of 1 to 10? What is your number rating?
-5.
-5. This one I thought it was pretty easy to read. Just kind of blasted through it. Not really expecting stuff to go beyond the orbit of the main character, who's so what did you think was so negative?
So this is a story within a story within a story, ostensibly fiction, but we do know that it's heavily autobiographical. I don't understand the reason for that structure of the story within the story within the story. I also think it's very dated and also very geographically bound, sort of culturally bound. And I also think that all the dilemma that our character is going through is, I am so far past from, I went through this kind of stuff when I was a teenager, and I was shocked at the self-involvement, short of, real clinical depression or bipolar, whatever his mental illness is. And so I just found it extremely unsatisfying. A lot of dithering and a lot of get on with it.
Dithering. Yep. Oh, so let's just, this one's, the story is not, I don't know. It's kind of like, I thought you could also, an alternative title could be, the main character's name is Harry Holler, and it could be called Harry Holler's Excellent Adventure, as he
with drug-induced excellent adventure.
Yeah, because the ending, I thought of Keanu Reeves with long hair going, whoa, like, because he just wakes up from this, I don't know, fever state or fever dream, just going, whoa, that was, whoa, and then just the end.
Exactly, and it was like, is this magical realism? Did I know this was magical realism? Is this just psychotic? Is this just drug-induced? The period, I don't know, it was written in 1929, ahead of his time in a lot of ways. He deals with very time-bound situations and culture-bound. See, I don't know very much about the German character. He's German-Swiss. I guess that's why he's bipolar and not just clinically depressed 100% of the time. But they've just come out of World War I. Europe is just a mess, and it's because of, I don't know if it's because of German aggression. I don't know exactly the details of World War I, but I know Germany lost. And the 20s was called the Roaring Twenties. Here in the United States, it was just sort of a loose, we're not at war anymore, let's just go crazy, and it was a wild, madcap time. But interestingly enough, Hesse could see another war on the horizon coming. And I thought that was prescient. I thought that was very interesting that he could see that coming. And, we did just finish the Lusitania book, and so that sort of dovetails this post World War I situation. But here's this 50-year-old guy, professor, spent his life criticizing or analyzing. He's an analytical intellectual, analyzing music, and now it's like he's going through his midlife crisis. Was this worth it? Did I touch God? Is it real? And, I think that his solution to it, we're finished with learn to laugh. It's just so anticlimactic.
Yeah. So, this podcast gets to another level with words like dovetail and prescient. So I'll
Yes,
try to
indeedy.
sustain that level of
Well,
verbiage.
well,
And
sustain and verbiage, you're on the right path.
so I think that, you know, so I think one thing about World War One that I've read about this guy Hesse is that he was traumatized by just the intense mechanization and meat grinder nature of just bodies being thrown at machine gun fire and tanks rolling over people, and just the romance of just plunging your bayonet into another person while risking your own life is like gone. It's just you're hiding in a hole, and whoever like has a few guys left after bombs being dropped and they're not just shell shocked out of their minds, like that that side may win. So it's just kind of like you win, but you've just lost every romantic element of war or soldiery, I guess. So so he's kind of this Hesse, I think he's like hearkening back to a more romantic time because he mentions Goethe, or Goeth as the as it's
Spelling
seems to be.
indicates.
Yeah, as it's spelled, but it's Goethe. And I learned in college, he was kind of the father figure of that really shifted into this romantic period where things of like, love is just the ultimate, because his main book that just tore through Europe was called the Sorrows of Young Werther. And he was a guy who just loved some lady, but I think she was betrothed to someone else, and then he just killed himself. And people were like, "Oh yes, that's exactly what we should do. That's right." So this Hesse. He's an old, he's a troubled guy. He's intellectual but dissatisfied, and looks around and just kind of sees, dipshits all around him, and also where's he gonna go? Because the whole world is kind of seems to be collapsing into like he's what's it called, isolated. Because he kind of knows too much. And so then he goes on his excellent adventure into just the opposite direction of total indulgence and, dancing and, women and stuff. So that's his adventure.
The counterpoint to his really restrained, ascetic sort of life. There's another word for you, Joe, ascetic. He just, his life is in disarray. That's why his room is in disarray. He loathes the bourgeoisie, and yet he's in this very conventional home where this woman, aunt, mother figure, sort of allows him the leeway to live in her bourgeois home. He's rude to the former colleague or student of his. He insults their little icon of Goethe in their living room, and he's just shooting himself in the foot, right, left, and center. And this obsession with the mother figure, because he hooks up with Herman or Hermine. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but he practically names her himself because she looks like his little childhood friend Herman, and he almost names her. Oh, your name isn't Hermine, is it? And she says, yes. Well, any prostitute would say, I'll be whatever you want me to be, right? And she's not only a mother figure telling him what to do exactly. You have to dance. You have to learn to dance. And also a mirror to him because she identifies with him perfectly. I mean, who knows if she's even real given the outcome of the book. So it's just a real psychological, psychedelic, I suspect he was on LSD or something, journey that this 50-year-old man is having because he's discontented with his life and he's discontented with his surroundings. He's just a master of discontentment.
Yeah, the clinical term I believe is psychological shitstorm. He's stuck in because also Hermine is the female version of, oh yeah, you look like my old friend Herman, who is also the writer of this book. Wait, am I a character in some dude Herman's book?
I
And
didn't even see the guy's name is Herman Hesse. I was, just focusing on Harry Haller. What are the hell with all these H's
yeah,
anyway?
yeah. Well, his name is H Harry Holler. Wait, who named me that? And then don't I have a friend called Herman? And aren't you? Yeah. So it's all very. He's in the throes of, is he the writer or is it the writer versus the character? He's just like he's in a psychological shitstorm, and
That's right, he is, and he can't step away from the mirror, and the mirror is just a wreck. It's just kind of there was a lot of stuff. It's also I don't have very much sympathy for him, although I do. If he could just be clinically diagnosed and then given some drugs to help him. But I don't find him a very sympathetic character because he's rude and because he's all in with the dancing. Yes, tell me whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. And then, he describes this love affair with Maria. And I mean, she's a skilled prostitute. She knows how to make a sexual encounter feel like love, which it isn't, which is what this Harry wants. It's just so self-involved. And of course, he's got the right to do that. He's trying to sort of sort through this psychological shitstorm that he's experiencing, and he's doing it by writing about it. But I didn't find him a sympathetic character at all. I found his resolution, stupid and kind of just self-indulgent.
well, so I think it's not even really like a story. It's just him interacting with the different components of like human nature, I think. So he's got a musician guy who's just totally laid back and he's just pure artist. He's got the girl who's just total physical sensuality. And then he's also got this side character, the wolf, that is his other half, which is just the animal base side that seems to live in all humans. And then he's got his teachers are, yeah, I mean, he's an intellectual. That's his past. So he's in that, the Socratic or wisdom-based effort, which is, yeah, that's the most reasonable way to go. But he's still lonely and like unhappy and stuff. So it's just him confronting or encountering all these different facets of just, I guess, the human condition, if that's a phrase that's thrown around. But so whoa, let's see. Let's just say now I don't have any notes, and I just kind of vaguely took in everything that happened. And yeah, there's that word bourgeoisie, and I'm like, okay, what is that? And I'm just gonna not even look it up. I'm just gonna figure it out for myself. From what
through the context, you can tell what it means by the context.
But I do know bourgeois is bad. It's looked down on. It's seen as like, what are you, bourgeois? And so I think that just from that clue, in history, it was you had the aristocracy who were just super rich, they just had freedom to just do literally whatever they want, and they could indulge in pure excess or love and food or torture, pain, anything they wanted, they could go all in on at the expense of everybody else. And then you had the serfs who just, their life was just toil, living with animals and surviving off of nature. And then after that, you had the bourgeoisie who were like, oh, we can, now we can do something here. We can make some money. And I think from what I'm improvising now is that was seen as bad because, like, the toiling serfs, they had a pure existence because they're close to nature and their life is just, it's like singular life. It's like pure. Or if you're an aristocrat, you have no worries. You're just literally thrusting into whatever thing you want. That's also pure, I guess. You don't even have to worry about your reputation. It's just if something scandalous happens, you can just erase that, and it just didn't happen. But the bourgeois, they wanted to study and learn and consume things, but you had to still make money. So you weren't able to fully pursue the things because you had to be practical at the same time. And I think that's the negative thing of like, oh, it's bourgeois, it's uncommitted to either something because you're focused on money or reputation, or today I guess like credibility. What do you think about that?
I think that is as close as you can get to it. It's middle class, right? And this book is set up, and the psychology of this book is the either or, the black or white, the wolf or human, and sexuality. Really incredibly long sexuality or intellectualism. And it's a false dichotomy. It's that either or syndrome that, people are more nuanced. Sometimes you want to be this way, sometimes you want to be that way. And what's lacking in the book that I find are any facets. I mean, even Joey said, I got facets, but there's no facets in this book. You're either good or you're bad. You're either, a wolf or you're a human being. And so I think that part of that dovetails with the idea of bourgeoisie and middle class being denigrated from both sides, because the peasant class will look at them and say, oh, you're aspiring to be aristocrat. You want to accumulate things with money, like a house and a Boston fern or this monkey tree that he mentioned like 6 times in this one chapter in the aunt's house. And of course, the aristocrats look down at you like, are you kidding me right now? Get out of here. You can't aspire to us. So that middle road, the moderate road, the, compromising road is just denigrated on both sides. And he's locked into this dichotomy idea for some reason. And life and people are just not like that. And I think that's the source of a lot of his problems. He doesn't see a middle path. He doesn't see any variation. He just sees it's this or it's that.
Yeah. It's So he's in there. He is bourgeois too, because he's a writer, he's a critic, but he's also like embarrassed by when people know his writing. So he's encumbered by that. So he's not. He wants to be a pure intellectual and have these opinions and like, look, I'm the expert on Goethe and your wife doesn't know what she's talking about. And then he just like, I'll what is that called? That show, that Netflix show? I think you should leave. he says something. He's like, yeah, I'll just go. I know.
He's just rude. He was just extremely rude and insulting something that they had in their home, which is, of course, it's like an indication. It's like everybody, if you think about, there are probably things in Japan as well, but in the United States, it's like having that fake Tiffany lamp, or it's like having the front door with the stained glass in it, or, it's those signs of bourgeois, the Boston fern during the Victorian era. And in this case, it's that tree that he sees in the aunt's house that is the symbol of bourgeoisie or middle-class life. And it's this insistence on the duality that I really think steers him the wrong way. And I looked up as many places as I could what exactly cultural context Steppenwolf means. Because number one, wolves, in the American interpretation, are strong, they are dangerous, they travel in packs, and they're sort of currently they're protected. So I can see the wolf being the symbol of brutality, survival of the fittest, that kind of thing. But he doesn't take into account any of the good characteristics of the wolf. It's just totally negative. And he just doesn't appreciate, if he's lonely, find another wolf, because wolves travel in packs. Find your brother. Find somebody that's like you. So I think that ignoring all the positive qualities that wolves have, and maybe Steppenwolves travel alone, maybe they are lonely all the time, and they're just, they have more of a brutal characteristic or cultural significance that I'm not aware of, but I don't quite understand the full context of the Steppenwolf.
Yeah, I thought it's funny. It's like a double-edged sword because humans are curious. They're equipped to understand things. But the downside is that the more you understand, the more you're like, oh, like the more things seem like pointless or out of control. So that's why that he's urged towards suicide, I guess. But then, so he's a scholar, he's an expert, but then he's just, yeah, you feel isolated or alienated because people aren't on your level. But then the wolf is also an animal which is totally ignorant and doesn't have to understand anything and is just driven by hunger. And so, yeah, that I think, like, I even feel that, especially recently, like, man, I wish I could just be a dipshit, not thinking about anything sometimes. Like, man, wouldn't that be good?
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, so
just have another beer.
And so I thought it was very.
Go ahead.
It is of the time because he's writing about even further back time. He's talking about the immortals and the way he references Goethe and other, even like Beethoven and I think Schubert even. Those are totally romantic era, although Beethoven's kind of in the middle, where yeah, they were bourgeois or middle class or consumerist enough to get musical skills or to get training, but they died young by like some tragic disease or from partying too hard. So that was the compromise. Like, oh yeah, you've elevated yourself, but then you just burn out and die. So that was seen as like Werther, the character who kills himself when he can't get the girl he likes. So I thought that's what the wolf was. He's kind of like it's also funny. It's also kind of cosplaying too. Today cosplaying is super popular. You can't control how you're perceived or what your reputation is or who is attracted to you. So you have to delude yourself. Yeah, but I am this type. Like I'm just too hardcore for everybody to understand. Like, yeah, like I just
yeah, but don't you go through that when you're 12 to 16, not when you're 50?
Well, if you isolate, yeah, you're shoved together with other kids where things are simple. Who's the fastest? Who is the cleverest? Or who has the best comeback? But then if you excel in some field and just leave everyone else behind, you're kind of like, why am I doing this? Why? It's like, man, those were the good old days when it was just, if I could just have better shoes than someone, that was good. Like, how do I get back to that? I think that's why in the story, he's walking around thinking about dying, and then someone hands him a book saying, hey, you a Steppenwolf too? And he's like, what the hell? Yes, I am. Wait, what? And now that's his whole, he just wants to, yes, let me get with those people who are like me. So I guess that's the other psychological facet, is that humans, they want community as well and like partnership. So it's all these things he's struggling to reconcile. So, and I think, yeah, that's it. It is. So, oh yeah, Hesse is looking back to earlier times, the immortals, these totally pure figures who have like, they've done it and I'm trying to do it too, but my life just sucks. Like you might say like Van Gogh is a super romantic person too, because he just painted and he's like, my life is horrible. Nobody likes me. Nobody even likes my art. But after I'm dead, like we can imagine like, oh, it was worth it. But Van Gogh's like, no, it wasn't. It was horrible.
It was terrible. Yeah, I suffered. But this also leads into the romantic idea that artists have to suffer. and they can't be commercial, and that's why commercial artists are looked down on, like Kincaid and his, of course it's cookie cutter, or Rockwell. They're commercial artists and they're looked down on because they didn't suffer for their art. They got commercial success. They had a relatively comfortable life, but not this guy. But I want to point out some discrepancies here. So first of all, this is why I think it's a midlife crisis. He's 50 years old. He is suffering from gout. He mentions gout several times, and there's no, clear treatment. They don't have good treatments for pain relief. That you can drink, and he drinks too much. He says he drinks too much, or you can take like opium, or you can take laudanum, that kind of thing. And those things have their own side effects that are really bad. He sees a war on the horizon, and I think he's suffering from depression, really clinical depression, exacerbated by having physical pain. And also he got kicked out. His wife, it says on page 67, he was driven out by a wife of disordered mind. Really? She probably just got tired of his whining. And, that's completely subjective, that view of his wife as having a disordered mind. Look how he carries on in the rest of the book. I wouldn't say necessarily he's the sane one.
Yeah, I think it's another aspect of this exercise of they got this guy who's just not having a good time. He tries partying it up. And so, yeah, it seems like the trifecta, like Socrates says. You got the appetite, which is your just animal instincts. You've got desire, which is your longing for things that are just pure emotion. Then you got reason, which should govern both other things. So the reason's on top. It's the boss. You shouldn't shut down the other two, but the reason should control it. But then Hesse is like, well, you got another option too. You could just go totally insane. You've got also there's also madness, which is which is the fourth alternative for sure, because entering the Magic Theater, it's for madmen only, and he is mad. And when you take these kinds of drugs, whatever he took to induce these kinds of visions and bad trip, he went that route. So fourth option. Yes, I thought that was kind of the joke of it, that Mozart could become your sidekick, and he starts hanging out with Mozart, and even mentioning Don Giovanni. That was Mozart's opera.
Interesting choice. Yeah, about his father, right?
That was a scandalous opera because it was about Don Giovanni was he was the main character. He was just a womanizer, and he just there was the typical good guy, the typical tenor is the young man who wants to get with the love, like Romeo and Juliet, but in this opera, Don Giovanni's the main character. He's a baritone or a bass, and that's the bad guy or the father or teacher, and the soprano and tenor are the main that have to come together. But Mozart's like, no, I'm going to do this, and it was a little bit scandalous. And at the end, in opera, I think before then, when things don't work out, you want to have a tragic ending. You would have a god come down and just reverse everything. The Deus ex machina would come down in his chariot. The god in the machine would just go, hey, don't worry, I got it. Apollo's here. I'm just going to fix everything, and it's no problem. Because the government worried that it would be too upsetting for the people to have such a sad ending. But in Don Giovanni, he gets all the girls he wants, and then suddenly at the end, a statue of somebody comes to life and just grabs hold of him and pulls him down into hell. So it's like the opposite ending, and people were like really horrified, like, what the hell? Where did that come from?
Satan ex machina.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's supposed to be the devil pulls him down, but it was a statue that comes to life and then just grabs him. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
so
here's what. But go ahead.
But yeah, so Mozart was. Yeah, he was. He had some radical ideas, but he's definitely in the classical era of clarity and just like stable structures. But yeah, that was a pretty radical opera of the time. And so, yeah, I think that, but even the Romantic era, that's like 200 years. That's like 1770s, like when America was declaring war against Britain was a again, yeah, like what's his name? Thomas Jefferson was like, no, we have to fight with the French. We have to go help them. And they're like, no, we have to make some money ourselves. What are you talking about? No, it's our principle. We have to help our brothers. And he was more romantic, and the other ones were more pragmatic,
practical. He was theoretical, and yeah. So let's talk about the music, because I think that Harry Haller was a critic or scholar of poetry and music. I think he wrote books about music and poetry. I think he was probably an expert on Goethe. So what was interesting about this is, why dancing? Well, dancing is physical, and some people call it, sex in a vertical position. So it's very physical and kind of emotional, and you have to feel the music. But I think that leads me to ask about the music. And is this new crazy music, jazz is very weird and different, and he's not crazy about it. But didn't you find Pablo, the jazz saxophonist, to have the best line in the book? So, he's kind of mysterious, Pablo is, and Harry asks him question about the music. Well, what about the music, And Pablo says, the music, Pablo says, the best thing, he says, the music, not the analysis of music with words, is what is important. Musicians play music. Talking about it never did anyone any good, which of course was Harry Haller's life. He could talk about music, but he couldn't play it. He couldn't dance to it. He couldn't, he had to learn. And this is the hypocrisy, or this is this castle built of sand, his expertise, but he doesn't really know music. He doesn't play music. So the purity thing is being able to play the music, whether it's jazz or whether it's the Immortals. But Harry can't do any of that. He's an observer. He's an outsider. Even in his field, he's an outsider because he's not a musician himself.
Yeah, that's kind of the dilemma, I guess, because, yeah, he's right. He's a musician. He's like, look, I play. But that's the whole thing. Like, is it just entertainment? Like, yeah, I just make drunken idiots happy, and who cares? That's what it is. And then Harry's like, but we've got such good examples that are clearly more elevated than that. It's got to be more than that. And Pablo's like, nope, it's not. He's like, what? And so that's where you're just like, well, what is the point of it then? Should we all just be drunk assholes every night and then die? Although that is what Mozart kind of did, and other ones
in between brilliant writing of music.
Yeah, so that's the, like, not hypocrisy, but the dilemma, or like
dilemma's a good word.
Like, strive for the divine, but what's popular, or what's bourgeois, is just make what is what is popular. Go with the indulge. You should just indulge. Why do you stress about a higher thing? Like, this is it. And so, yeah, I'm on Harry's side there. I'm like, yeah, it's not just for some dipshit who wants to hear Country Roads. I'm like, no, I hate that song, and I'm gonna give you your medicine, which is not that song. Yeah, that's
you're
what it is.
Like, listen to Mozart. You're gonna listen to Haydn. You're gonna listen to Handel.
Yeah, that's fun. What's funny is there's a character on Parks and Recreation called Ron Swanson, who's just so rigidly unbend. He just does not compromise anything. And so there's a scene where he goes to Home Depot and someone says, "Hey, buddy, making a home project?" And he just goes, "I know more than you." And the staff, the worker's like, "Okay," and then he walks around him. So all the time when, like, kind of my wife says something, or I'll say, "Yeah, just say, I know more than you," which is not Japanese and not anywhere, but that's like what.
Oh my God, no! Could I say I know more than you?
Yeah, just point blank. But see, the problem is, Pablo, I know more than you, which is kind of true.
But he doesn't. But he might know more, but he can't play music, and the essence of music is to play it, right? I mean, otherwise you're just an appreciative doofus.
Well, I don't know. You could say, is Mozart, what if he, let's say he just couldn't, I don't know, if the piano wasn't invented, which is a super complex instrument, right? You play all these notes, and if he just had like a whistle and Mozart couldn't actually produce the music he knew was in his mind, is he like, he sucks? I don't know.
No, because I think having the piano at his disposal and, enables him to create also. So, and that's purely hypothetical and doesn't get us anywhere, Joe. I think that this was part of his midlife crisis. Part of Harry's problem is that he realizes all this talking about music is not the music. It's not the point. Talking about it, who cares? Just play it and enjoy it and listen to it and dance to it. That's, I think, what he kind of realizes. And it's just kind of a throwaway line. It's not, this Pablo doesn't have any credibility, really, and especially not with Harry. He thinks he's better than you. I know more than you, but can't play the saxophone.
But I think that's the thing, though. Like Harry's more cerebral, and then Pablo is just the immediate sensational, the sensual. But yeah, of course, if you hear a song and the song is done, but you're still thinking about it later, the musician's gone. Like, I don't need you anymore. I've got it on my mind. That's the more.
Think of that.
Yeah, that's the cerebral part.
That's like the cerebral aspect.
If you just play like, row, row, row your boat happens now, and then later you're thinking about how it could be, oh, that sounds kind of like this, or maybe those could go together. Yeah, but then you see that musician again, and he just only plays the same song. I think, if you're imagining a more sophisticated, like a blend or some kind of, do these go together? Or maybe, and you can't even do it. I would say that the thinker is more sophisticated than the actual player.
Except that he is a jazz saxophonist, which is sort of, implied with that is the, improvisation and making it up as you go along and that kind of thing. It's highly imaginative and, of course, reactive.
Yep. And so, I think it's a whole, I don't know. It was a weird book, but there's lots of soliloquizing, which I just kind of blew past. I mean, this is probably not important. It's all about this, journey.
I think those are the important parts where he's trying to mull over and try to make sense of his world. I think the plot line is not as interesting, is not as crucial. I mean, I think he's working through a real dilemma, and he's trying all different kinds of medicines and, liking it, by the way. And yet, after, he ends his love affair with Maria, he knows, and he's made this ridiculous promise to Herman to kill her. Or is he killing himself? Is he killing I don't know what's going on. Is he killing the author? I don't know. But even though he thoroughly enjoyed all the sexual encounters and the sexual awakening that he was able to achieve and learn the foxtrot and learn the other dances and was able to be accomplished in that field, he's still not happy. He says, I'm not content to be happy. It's not my destiny. he enjoys his unhappiness. It's a badge of honor to him to be unhappy. And I think this is where, the depressive elements come in. He's wallowing in this darkness.
Yeah, that's a funny.
And maybe it's because I'm an American.
Well, that's kind of a funny. They all kind of shake their heads at him because, and yeah, as you metamorphosize, there's someone always saying like, yeah, you're not going far enough. You're not doing enough. And the student is like, what are you talking about? Like, this is it. This is the limit. And like, there's limits you can't even comprehend. You're just not even there yet. And so, yeah, he goes like, my destiny, like having a fatalist idea. Yeah, that's kind of a rigid, I guess, construct that, you do this and the results happen in an orderly way. And there is predictable consequences to things. And so, yeah, if you have it programmed or conditioned in that's kind of, even I think that's a silly thing. Like if to make art you have to suffer, it's like a kind of a beginner or consumer wants that kind of formulaic recipe to things so that it makes sense in their mind, so they can judge what is good and what's bad, or so that a bourgeois consumer can make the right choices about this is good. I'm going to throw my opinion behind this guy because, look at him. Look at his life. He must be better. But
because they've been culturally taught to believe that all great artists did suffer. I don't know if it's Christianity or the, associated with Christ or whatever, or maybe, but Dickens didn't suffer, and he was great. And Shakespeare didn't suffer. You can't beat him. And the people who lionize the suffering are trying to give themselves, I'm getting very cynical here, but it's almost as if the feeling was you had to suffer for your art. If you didn't suffer, it wasn't really art. Even if something, comes to you easily and you don't suffer, but you enjoy the process and you revel in it, you're not a true artist because you didn't suffer. And I think that that's culturally embedded in the times, the Romantic period probably, and something like that. So I didn't like it for that reason. I'm beyond this idea. I'm first of all, I'm very culturally American, so I'm rather more optimistic, or I have been until this month. And I'm also, pick yourself up, do something about this, or stop. I was raised, my mother would say, stop thinking about yourself. And that's all this is. This is just one giant thought circle in his own mind. And, I got tired of it really, really soon. And you're in a midlife crisis. Okay, go buy a motorcycle. It's okay. Just do it. It's all right.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the dilemma. The more you know, the more you can't turn it off. Like, you just can't. Like I get why, super executive or rich people, you kind of have to keep spending upward into super nice hotels or nicer restaurants, because the more aware you are, the more you just can't help but you can't abide. Like, what the hell is that, or what is this, or you call this or whatever, or what, 5 minutes late? Why, I thought it has to, you can't ignore things. So it's almost like, yeah, that's the dilemma. As you the more higher you go, the more entrenched you are in that. Like, you can't, like, yeah, that would be great if someone's like, yeah, just stop worrying about whatever. And you're like, well, how the hell? Yeah, you mean just go back to being like a baby? Yeah, that would be good. I wish I could do that.
Well, again, doesn't have to be black or white. Doesn't have to be either or. It can be, maybe I don't have to have a rocket ship to space. Maybe I have enough money to live comfortably without. Maybe I'll get a super yacht, but maybe I don't need a rocket ship.
I mean, just the mental, like, observational skills. Like, Harry couldn't even turn it off when he was seeing his old friend. at his house.
Yeah.
He was kind of
Yeah.
Larry David-ish and just said like, that statue of Goethe you have is I think he said it was something like he would never approve of like being displayed in someone's house. He was a pure artist who just was about the work. He was not one to be worshipped or put on a pedestal. That's so contradictory to Goethe's being. And the wife is like, I like it. And he's like, well, you're only displaying your ignorance or something like something like totally just shotgun to the face. And the guy,
right.
The husband's like, I think you should leave. And he's like, I know. And then
he's just leaves. Compelled. He can't stop himself. He's compelled to do it because he knows more than anybody else. And so he has to admit that. He can't let it go. And also he can't, if he is clinically depressed, which I think he is, he can't get out of it. When you're clinically depressed, you're in a hole and it's really hard to surface. It's very difficult to scratch your way out. You can't. And I don't think you can do it without drugs to help you lift your spirits. And so I think this psycho trip that he took in the Magic Theater, maybe it'll help him, and maybe that's a step in the right direction. Just learn to put the pieces together a little bit differently and don't take yourself so seriously. That's the message that I got from how he's going to resolve this. Yeah, he doesn't exactly kill himself. He kills Herman, but he'll learn how to play the game with his multitude pieces better, and he'll laugh. Okay, I think those are doable.
Yeah, I think that that's why. Yeah, I was kind of, I don't know. I thought it was pretty funny that as he leaves his friend's house, like, well, I think by 8 o'clock I'll just kill myself because that didn't go so well. And but I think that's the thing, is that the madness is not, don't lose your mind entirely where your life is ruined, but just kind of see you can. Yes, you can categorize everything. You can observe how things are on a scale or a spectrum of, Aristotelian goodness, or where does this sit on the scale? But then you could say, this is all just absurd. If you back up enough, the absurdity of us trying to make sense of it all, it's kind of beyond. You can't do it in your lifetime.
It's not an achievable goal. Yeah.
Like on his,
and also, go ahead.
Like on his excellent adventure, one of the things is he sees another old childhood friends, and they just start shooting guns at random cars, which I thought also is kind of like, oh, that's kind of today-ish, just random shootings. And Harry's like, I don't know if I like this, and he's like, just try it, just try shooting that guy, and he's like, oh, actually, I do like it. So he just partakes briefly in just this absurd episode, and then
really bizarre. That was so bizarre. These 5 doors that he goes through, the man versus machine, and that was part of that. That was their cars, and there were tanks, and they were shooting people. Guidance in the building of a personality, marvelous taming of the Steppenwolf. All the girls are yours. Second to last. How one kills for love. I don't know. I think you had to. I don't know. They were very bizarre. That's why I think they were drug induced, because they were. You never know how he got one place or the other. It was always just fugue state and really bizarre.
I think I don't even remember him taking any drugs. I think he was just in his own mind.
No, it's never. Well, no, it does mention cocaine, and it does, and Pablo, one of the things he did was sell drugs on the side. And he does mention that he did take drugs, but it didn't specifically say it about this little adventure in the Magic Theater.
So I think he's just in his own mind. And the shooting at cars, that's just like progress. Let's laugh at how stupid we all think. The cleverest people on Earth back then and today see technology as absolute progress, and there's a whole conflict there. The Steppenwolf, he's like, oh, that's my animal side in the mirror. This is also kind of ludicrous and ridiculous. And oh, my old girlfriends, remember my childhood, also longing for those passions of falling in love with a girl for like one day, and then, or he says one time like, oh, I loved her, fell in love with her because she liked me a little bit. I thought like, wow, this is really this is totally just a not this is like a still today. And
Yeah.
so I thought he's just, yeah, like the whole point of the magic theater was like, you could take a break from your own hardcore processing of everything. You can hang out, a party a little bit, and you can also just, and even maybe like the final skill is just take a step back totally and see how ridiculous so much, high high focus study is. Like, this is all just kind of crazy. So
Yeah.
don't worry about it if you can't figure it all out, if you can't sort it out. And suicide seems like the only option.
Yeah, because I understand. You reach a point where you think, has my life been useless? Have I spent all these years of study and knowledge and lecturing and writing for nothing? Has this been a pursuit of my own tail? Is that it? And so I think that's why I think it's a midlife crisis, because so many men fall apart when their job ends. And so he's not only, it seems, his job is over, but also his wife has kicked him out. So he's untethered totally. And so he's just grasping for something to stop this pain. And if it's suicide, that's one thing. If it's alcohol or drugs or dancing, that's another option. So I think that's a more joyful option. That would be good. Laughing is better than suicide generally. And so, I hope he finds some peace.
Yeah. So I thought my takeaway was, being skeptical or even like cynical is actually kind of like intelligent, but you have to have a good sense of humor that you can't turn off or turn down your, whatever you're finely tuned to observe, but you can turn up or turn on the humor side, where you kind of say like, could you imagine, I don't know, anything, just add something more to it that makes it over the edge to like ridiculous, so you can kind of take the pressure off. So,
well, it's sort of like Jon Stewart, talking about today's politics. These are serious times. This is a serious situation. And he's recognizes the seriousness of it, but with humor. And so, good advice is always not to take yourself so seriously. And by the time you've reached adulthood, you should be able to get some perspective. That's what perspective is. Sort of see the value of everything in the whole scheme of things. So anyway, he's got another book that I kept getting confused. I haven't read either of this, but he also wrote Siddhartha. And, that's a name for Buddha, right?
Yep.
So I haven't read that either, but, these were huge, really, really popular books when I was in college. And in the preface to this, in the 1960 preface, he wrote, it's been totally misunderstood. And first of all, it's read by a much younger crowd than he expected, because he wrote it as a 50-year-old man, and it's been misunderstood. So, but he doesn't say what he meant. He lets the work stand for itself, I suppose. But I just do remember that it was very, very popular. Siddhartha maybe more, when I was in college. And I think that's the time when you're trying to figure out who you are. And I think that's part of what he's trying to do. Who am I going to be now? Am I going to be the wolf? Am I going to be the human being? Or is there some other alternative? Is there some blend? Is there some alternative? Is there some, other thing I can be for a little while?
Yeah, I thought, I think it's high school is good because you try to show how literature, you got a character, you got a place, and you got a guy or a person trying to do something. And it's not this is about exploring different things or ideas, I guess. And so high school students like, wait, what? So who's the bad guy? And you're like, well, there's no bad guy. It's just he's just living in a random city. But so like, does he have a superpower, or does he like fail and like, train or something? Like, nope, he just wanders around like talking to random people. And they're like, well, what is that about? And so like, we read a book called Damien in high school, and I was like, oh, this is as the teacher explained it about what it means and what was happening at the time. I was like, oh, this is way better than Great Gatsby, which I was like, what is this? This shit is just like, what's the point of this? So yeah, I think it's a good show that literature is not just about storyline, but about kind of the different people represent things, and then the ending is just. So then he woke up from the party and was just, oh, dude, the end.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was literally like the ending of this book.
That's interesting you said that, because I taught freshmen in college. I taught the mystery of the dog in the nighttime. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or read it.
Yeah, I read that.
But and so I tried to get the students' reaction, and it was like that. It was, I wanted something bigger than he just took the train by himself. And I said, it's a little victory. It's just a little victory to build, and it builds his self-confidence. He's not, I wanted something a little bit more. He wanted bombs to go off. He wanted buildings to be destroyed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
I think that's why I think that Blood Meridian is so overhyped, because it's just got all these like crazy scenes, but it's so like charged and loaded with like violence and like, whoa, books can do that? Like you can put that in a book? Oh, this is now this is the type of literature I'm into. And it's like you're just shocked and awed that a writer can write such horrendous things in a book, and you kind of you just deposit it into the lofty or sophisticated shelf in your mind. Oh yeah, I didn't understand most of it, but I mean, dude,
wow. It's like Ren and Stimpy. Yeah.
But this Harry, but yeah, Harry is like Larry David, just like, thinking about dying, and it's like, yeah, what is that about? Anyway,
we're all just wandering through, but you liked it. I think you might read Siddhartha.
I liked it that I could just, quickly judge, okay, that's a soliloquy. I don't need to know all that. This is, I did kind of skip phrasing that I thought was like soliloquizing. Okay, just get to what happens next. So.
But what happens next doesn't make sense. So the plot is the least important aspect of this story. It is the revelations to himself, and this is the kind of story that you can go into and say, or you want to go into and say, but what does that mean? What is that showing him? What is being revealed there? Not just what happened. So I don't know. I mean, especially because it's such an internal journey, and it's, there's no bad guy. He's his own worst enemy. It's an inner conflict that he's suffering from. And, his resolution, the resolution of the conflict is just, laugh more.
Yep. Well, that's going to do it for this one. Do we have another?
All righty then. Well, I'll tell you, I don't know exactly the name of it. It is a book that is popular right now, and it is called James, and the author's name is Percival something in there called Percival.
And, Everett?
Yes. And the book is called James, and I think I want to do that one. Huh. I don't know anything about it except that it comes highly recommended to me by, different couple of people only, and it's been been mentioned in the New York Times, I think.
Do you want me to tell you?
I think it's a bestseller.
It's about Pulitzer Prize finalist. Ooh, sounds like not the winner, but it's about Huckleberry Finn, but the main character is Jim, the dude or slave or ex-slave that he hangs out with.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so
yeah.
it's called James. That gives him some gravitas, I guess. Anyway, you up for that? Or I can let's try that.
Yeah, the whole point is that Huckleberry Finn is scandalous now because in the book that character's name is the N-word Jim. Like that's his name in that's what the boy calls him, I think, or so. That character has come into the
I think he's just called
focus.
Jim. I think he's just called Jim. I think there's another one that's kind of an Injun Joe that is in Huckleberry Finn also. That is kind of Injun. A derogatory term is associated with this name, but we'll find out.
Yep. All right. Well, that's I give a B to Steppenwolf. You give
Oh God,
a minus C.
I give a C minus. Yeah.
Minus C minus.
My C minus. Okay, well then we'll see how we feel about Percival Everett's James for our next session. Okay, signing off.
All right. Catch you next time.